In the winter of 1241, Europe got lucky. The Mongol armies had just crushed Poland and Hungary. Their scouts were already peering toward Vienna and beyond. Then, suddenly, they turned around and went home. Not because Europe fought them off, but because one man died thousands of kilometers away. In our timeline, that death saved Europe. In this video, we ask, what if he lived? What if Ögedei Khan, ruler of the Mongol Empire, never died? Here's what actually happened. While Batu Khan invaded Poland and Hungary, terrorizing Europe with lightning-fast cavalry, news reached him. The great Khan, Ögedei, was dead. Mongol princes were required to return to Mongolia to elect the next Khan. So Batu stopped. The armies pulled back. The Mongols never pushed deeper into Central Europe. To medieval Europeans, it looked like a miracle. But in reality, it was succession politics and one ruler's self-destruction. Ögedei Khan was brilliant, but he had a fatal flaw. Alcohol. Chronic heavy drinking wrecked his health. Despite attempts by advisors and his wife Turagena to limit his intake, Ögedei refused to change. In 1241, he suffered a stroke, brought on by years of abuse. Could it have been stopped? With stricter court control, personal discipline, or religious conversion, yes. And that's our point of divergence. Ögedei stays sober enough and doesn't die in 1241. In this alternate timeline, Ögedei survives his health scare. No death, no emergency kurultai. Batu Khan receives no summons to return home. Instead, the Mongol invasion of Europe continues. Poland and Hungary, already devastated at Legnica and Mohi, are finished off. Their remaining castles fall, their rulers either killed, captured, or forced into exile. With Eastern Europe crushed, a vast gateway opens, Central Europe is exposed, and the Mongols are just getting started. News spreads like wildfire, entire kingdoms gone in months, towns burned, refugees flooding west. The Pope and the Church scramble to respond. On one hand, they send envoys and letters, hoping to convert or civilize these barbarians and convince them to stop. On the other, Europe's rulers rush to raise armies. But it's a patchwork effort. Rivalries, mistrust, and poor coordination cripple any united response, just as the storm reaches their borders. As Mongol horsemen ride west, people flee ahead of them. Nobles, merchants, and peasants pour into Central and Western Europe, desperate to escape the slaughter. This triggers a massive demographic shift. Cities swell, border regions empty. Meanwhile, kings and emperors levy new taxes, rebuild old fortresses, and modernize their armies. But Europe is still a feudal patchwork, slow, divided, and unfamiliar with fighting an enemy that can be 20 kilometers away by the time news arrives. Batu's armies swing south and west, smashing through the Balkans and into Greece. Here, the Mongols finally meet a real challenge: steep mountains, narrow passes, and a Mediterranean climate that doesn't suit steppe cavalry. Their mobility is blunted, logistics become painful, and casualties climb. But they adapt, using local auxiliaries, siege engineers, and sheer brutality. For the people in their path, it doesn't matter that progress is slower. The invasion still feels unstoppable. The Byzantine Empire, already a shadow of its former self, is hit from multiple sides. Greece and much of Anatolia fall under Mongol pressure or local surrender. That leaves Constantinople, an isolated island of empire in a Mongol-controlled sea. Cut off from its hinterland, the city struggles to feed itself or pay its soldiers. When the Mongols finally besiege it, the outcome is grimly predictable. Byzantium falls earlier and more violently than in our timeline, erasing the last great Eastern Roman remnant. Faced with the collapse of Byzantium and the loss of Eastern Christendom, the Pope calls for a grand coalition. Knights and princes from Central and Southern Europe answer, forming a massive, if fragile, allied army. But Western Europe is distracted. In this timeline, the dynastic rivalry that will become the 100 Years' War breaks out early between France and England. Locked in their own struggle for dominance, they ignore the Pope's plea. The coalition marches east, undermanned, disunited, and completely outmatched. The decisive clash comes on the open plains of Central Europe, ideal terrain for steppe warfare. European knights, packed into dense formations, try to force a straightforward battle. The Mongols refuse. They feign retreat, strike the flanks, rain arrows from distance, and exploit every gap. Communication breaks down. Within days, the Allied army is shredded. The Holy Roman Empire's authority collapses as princes die or flee. The path to the heart of Europe lies wide open. With their armies destroyed, the Holy Roman Empire fractures. Some princes swear allegiance to the Mongols. Others retreat to mountain strongholds. Many simply vanish from history. In Rome, the Pope faces an impossible choice: stay and risk capture or flee. As Mongol-aligned forces advance through Italy, the Papal States begin to disintegrate. The Pope flees, perhaps to a fortified city or foreign court. The once mighty medieval church suddenly looks mortal, vulnerable, and very small. Now, Western Europe becomes the next target. France is already bleeding from its struggle with England. When Mongol forces arrive, French defenses buckle under the combined pressure. While English and French armies fight each other, Mongol generals exploit the chaos, raiding, encircling, and destroying isolated forces. France, caught between its traditional rival and a new superpower, collapses far more quickly than in our history. Its monarchy is reduced to a Mongol-approved puppet or driven into exile. England sees the writing on the wall. Fighting both France and the Mongols is suicide, so English rulers attempt something unthinkable. They negotiate. They offer tribute, trade, and naval support in exchange for security, and perhaps a free hand in certain regions. The Mongols, always pragmatic, accept. England becomes a privileged vassal, spared the worst of the devastation. Southern European states, terrified of annihilation, follow suit, entering alliances that are alliances in name only. Pushing westward, Mongol forces finally reach the Iberian Peninsula. Spain and Portugal, buffered by mountains and removed from the initial shock, have had more time to prepare. They fortify passes, negotiate when necessary, and exploit their geography. The Mongols still win battles and demand tribute, but the cost of full conquest, combined with overstretched supply lines, proves too high. The empire reaches its effective limit in Europe. Expansion slows to a halt. Consolidation begins. By now, the Mongol Empire spans nearly all of Eurasia: China, Central Asia, the Middle East, Russia, and now most of Europe. England and southern European kingdoms exist as semi-autonomous puppets. France and the Holy Roman Empire are broken into shards. The Papal States effectively vanish. The Church survives, but humbled and regional. For the first time in history, a single nomadic empire dominates from the Pacific to the Atlantic, reshaping trade, diplomacy, and culture on a planetary scale. But no empire this large stays stable for long. Managing tribute from Spain, enforcing rule in Germany, quelling revolts in Persia, and policing rival princes in China all at once is impossible. Local rebellions flare up from every direction. Rival descendants of Genghis Khan feud over succession, influence, and revenue. By the 14th and 15th centuries, the empire begins to crack. Just like in our timeline, it splinters, but now along even more colossal fault lines, including Europe itself. Eventually, the Mongol world solidifies into 4 major khanates, each ruled by a different branch of Genghis Khan's descendants. In the east, Kublai's line dominates China and Mongolia. In the heart of Eurasia, the Chagatai Khanate rules Tibet and Central Asia. In the Middle East, the Ilkhanate governs Persia and surrounding lands. And in this timeline, the Golden Horde controls not only Russia, but much of Europe, Germany, France, and the Balkans, blending steppe customs with local traditions. Centuries of Mongol rule leave a deep mark on Europe. In Central Europe and the Balkans, a new Mongol-Euro identity emerges, mixing steppe traditions with local languages, laws, and Christianity. Elsewhere, Europe splinters into countless small states. No vast monarchies like Habsburg Spain or Louis XIV's France ever emerge. Politics remain chaotic and localized. The dream of unified Christendom is dead, replaced by shifting coalitions and puppet regimes. In our history, a powerful, corrupt church helped spark the Protestant Reformation. Here, the opposite happens. Mongol overlords never allow the papacy to regain its old might. Stripped of vast territories and wealth, the church becomes leaner, more cautious, and less corrupt. Without a dominant, oppressive institution to rebel against, Protestantism never ignites. Christianity remains largely Catholic, but confined mostly to Europe and nearby regions, with limited global reach. The Renaissance depended on stability, wealthy patrons, and thriving city-states. This Europe has none of that. Constant wars, Mongol tax burdens, and fragmentation stifle the arts and sciences. There are still thinkers and inventors, but no broad cultural rebirth like Florence or Venice. Without a Renaissance, there's no Enlightenment, no explosive growth of humanism, rationalism, or experimental science. European technological progress lags far behind what we know today. Spain and Portugal, partially shielded from full Mongol conquest, slowly became the leading European powers. They dominate what's left of European politics, competing for influence over neighboring states. But constant continental struggles and weaker economic foundations mean they lack the drive, and perhaps the need, for massive overseas empires. Colonialism, as we know it, never truly takes off. There's no unified push to conquer the Americas or carve up Africa for plantations and silver mines. In the east, the Ottomans still rise. They seize Constantinople, this time from weakened Mongol or Mongol-aligned rulers. Then they push into the Balkans, becoming the dominant Eastern European empire. With Europe fragmented and the Mongol Khanates distracted, the Ottomans secure trade routes and territories stretching from Anatolia to Central Europe. They emerge as one of the main pillars of the Eurasian balance of power, rivaling both China and the surviving Mongol states. In China, the Ming rise after overthrowing Kublai's Yuan successors. But with Europe weak and the Mongol threat receding, Ming China faces fewer external rivals. Their naval expeditions, like Zheng He's voyages, don't get cancelled. Instead, China pushes farther, along African coasts toward Australia and across the Pacific. Chinese explorers establish early outposts in the Americas, meeting the Aztecs, Mayans, and Incas as partners rather than future victims. With no European conquest of the Americas, there is no Atlantic slave trade on the scale we know. China and other powers seek trade, tribute, and prestige, not vast plantations run on enslaved labor. The Aztecs, Mayans, and Incas continue to evolve as major regional powers, enriched by Eurasian technologies but not wiped out by invasion. Their cultures survive into the modern age, shaping global religion, art, and politics in ways almost impossible to imagine. By the 19th century, the world's major powers look very different. China, Spain, Portugal, and the Ottomans form the core of global politics. Europe as a whole is still fractured, only slowly stabilizing after centuries of Mongol shadow and local wars. Technological progress exists, gunpowder weapons, printing, early industry, but lags behind our industrial revolution. Without a powerful, unified Europe to dominate colonies, world power is more evenly distributed across continents. The 20th century unfolds without World War I or II. There are still wars, regional conflicts between monarchies, border disputes, rebellions, but nothing like our world-spanning total wars. Without a world war, there is no Russian Revolution as we know it, no Nazi Germany, no nuclear arms race, and no Cold War. Monarchy remains the dominant political ideology. Technology advances, but more slowly, without the brutal accelerant of industrialized warfare. By the year 2000 in this timeline, the world is recognizable yet alien. Europe is recovering, but never became the global center of science and industry. China and the Ottomans have risen and begun to stagnate. African empires and new states have grown, fallen, and reformed, entering the global stage on more equal footing. Technology is behind ours. Fewer computers, slower medicine, less space exploration. But humanity has avoided some of the worst horrors of our history. All of this, no Renaissance, no Protestant Reformation, no colonial empires, no world wars, flows from a single change. Ögedei Khan didn't drink himself to death in 1241. Batu Khan keeps marching. Europe falls into the Mongol orbit. History is not just shaped by great ideas and deep forces. Sometimes it turns on the health of a single man at a single moment. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me which timeline you'd rather live in.